The Dubai skyline pierced the pre-dawn darkness like golden needles, each tower a monument to impossible wealth. On the tarmac of Dubai International Airport, private jets sat in perfect rows, their polished surfaces reflecting the amber glow of runway lights. The air was thick with heat even at this early hour, carrying the scent of jet fuel and the distant promise of another scorching day in the desert paradise. At 4:17 a.m. on June 15, 2018, a message appeared on Liza Reyes's phone. She was folding laundry in her small apartment, preparing for another long shift, when the notification chimed. The sender was her best friend and roommate, Maria Garcia. But the words that appeared on her screen made her blood turn cold. "I'm in danger. Carlos knows something I don't." Liza stared at the message for a full minute, her heart hammering against her ribs. She tried calling immediately, but the phone went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Nothing. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. These were the last words anyone would ever hear from Maria Garcia. But to understand how a flight attendant's dream became a nightmare buried in the shifting sands of Dubai's desert, we need to go back 18 months earlier, to a cramped house in the Philippines where hope still lived. The roosters began their chorus at 4:30 a.m. every morning in Barangay Lahug, a forgotten corner of Cebu where dreams felt as distant as the planes that occasionally crossed the sky. Maria Garcia would lie on her thin mattress, sharing the single bed with her two younger sisters, listening to the familiar symphony of awakening poverty. Roosters crowing, babies crying, the shuffle of feet on bamboo floors, the crackle of wood fires being lit for the morning's rice. Their house was barely more than a shack, its walls made of corrugated metal sheets that turned their home into an oven during the day and provided no warmth during the cool mountain nights. The smell of rice cooking mixed with the smoke from their neighbors' fires, creating a haze that seemed to hang permanently over their small world. Anna's mother, Elena, would wake before dawn to prepare the day's single substantial meal, stretching a cup of rice to feed 5 mouths. But even in this place where hope seemed as fragile as their tin roof during typhoon season, Maria possessed something unbreakable. Every evening, she would climb onto their roof despite her mother's worried protests, and watch the sky. When planes passed overhead, their lights blinking like distant stars, Anna would close her eyes and imagine herself inside one of those metal birds, soaring above the clouds, seeing the world that existed beyond the narrow streets of Lahug. When Anna announced she wanted to become a flight attendant, the family scraped together every available peso for her aviation training. Roberto sold his motorcycle. Elena took on extra laundry work. The younger children went without new school uniforms. It wasn't just Anna's dream they were investing in. It was their family's only chance at escaping the cycle of poverty that had trapped their parents and grandparents before them. Anna was gentle by nature, trusting without being naive, and family-oriented in the way that only children who have known real hunger can be. When Falcon Skyways offered her a position in Dubai, Anna fell to her knees in their tiny living room and wept, not just from joy, but from the crushing weight of responsibility. She would lift them all from poverty, or die trying. On January 15, 2017, Maria Garcia stepped off Philippine Airlines Flight PR-659 into Dubai International Airport, and into a world that redefined everything she thought she knew about wealth, power, and possibility. The blast of air conditioning hit her first, so intense after the Manila humidity that she actually shivered. Then came the visual assault. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors, gold fixtures that weren't just decorative but functional, and everywhere, the quiet hum of money in motion. From the taxi window on her way to the company housing, she watched a city that seemed built from someone's impossible dream. Buildings twisted into the sky like silver ribbons, their glass surfaces reflecting a sun so bright it turned the desert into a carpet of gold. Her new home was a 2-bedroom apartment shared with 3 other flight attendants. To Anna, who had never had a room to herself, the arrangement felt luxurious. But luxury, Anna quickly learned, was relative. Her salary, generous by Philippine standards, barely covered her expenses in a city where a cup of coffee cost more than her father earned in a day. The homesickness hit her in waves, usually at night when she would call home and hear her mother's voice, thin and distant across the thousands of miles between them. Falcon Skyways wasn't just an airline. It was an extension of the Middle East's most exclusive social circle. Anna's passengers weren't just wealthy. They were powerful in ways that made ordinary wealth seem pedestrian. Sheikhs who owned countries' worth of oil, business magnates who could move markets with a phone call, politicians whose decisions affected millions of lives. Anna discovered she had a natural talent for reading the subtle power dynamics that played out at 40,000 feet. She noticed which business partners sat together and which maintained careful distance, which marriages were genuine and which were strategic arrangements, which smiles were real and which were performed. The other flight attendants whispered warnings during their breaks. Some clients expect more than service. Her supervisor warned during Anna's first week. Learn to recognize the signs. And remember, in Dubai, some secrets are worth more than money, but they're also more dangerous than you can imagine. Anna nodded, filing the advice away, never imagining that within a year, she would discover exactly how dangerous those secrets could be. Sheikh Rashid bin Khalid Al Fahad moved through the world like a man who had never heard the word no. At 45, he possessed the kind of wealth that existed in its own dimension, accumulated across 3 generations of his family's oil empire, and multiplied through real estate investments that had reshaped Dubai's skyline. When he walked into a room, conversations stopped not from recognition, but from an instinctive understanding that power had entered their space. His private jets weren't just transportation. They were extensions of his domain, flying palaces that carried him between his residences in Dubai, London, Cairo, and Geneva like a modern pharaoh surveying his territories. Government ministers took his calls at midnight. Business rivals studied his movements like military strategists. In public, he was charming, cultured, a patron of arts who spoke 5 languages and donated millions to charity. In private, he was something else entirely. Anna noticed it during her first flight serving him in February 2017. The Sheikh treated people like chess pieces, moving them with calculated precision across the board of his ambitions. His inner circle was small, fiercely loyal, and well compensated for their silence. They never questioned his decisions, never challenged his authority, and never, ever disappointed him. Those who did simply disappeared from his orbit, their positions filled seamlessly by others who understood the rules of engagement. At the center of this carefully orchestrated world stood Carlos Reyes, the Sheikh's shadow made flesh. Carlos had emerged from the slums of Tanda in Manila, where survival meant learning to read danger in the twitch of an eye, the shift of a shoulder, the pause before violence erupted. A typhoon had claimed his family when he was 16, leaving him with nothing but guilt and an iron determination to never be helpless again. Military training had given him discipline and deadly skills. Private security work had taught him that loyalty, absolute and unquestioning, was the only currency that mattered in the world of the ultra-wealthy. At 32, Carlos possessed an athletic build carved from years of constant vigilance, watchful eyes that cataloged every threat, and a face that rarely betrayed emotion. He was feared by other security personnel, respected by his peers, and trusted completely by the Sheikh. His daily routine was a monastery of service. 16-hour shifts, constant surveillance of surroundings, threat assessment that never ceased even during sleep. He had no personal life, no relationships that weren't professionally necessary, no desires that extended beyond ensuring the Sheikh's safety. To those who worked alongside him, Carlos seemed like a machine built for protection, incapable of human frailty. But beneath the professional mask lived a man drowning in isolation, haunted by memories of family members he couldn't save, desperate for a connection that felt real in a world built on transactions and fear. The moment that changed everything happened on a routine flight from Dubai to Cairo on March 15, 2017, Anna's 3rd month with Falcon Skyways. She was serving the Sheikh's breakfast when turbulence struck without warning, sending the coffee pot flying from her hands. Hot liquid splashed across Carlos's shirt as he moved instinctively to shield his employer. Anna's horrified apology died on her lips as Carlos looked up at her, their eyes meeting for the first time with genuine attention rather than professional assessment. Instead of anger, she saw surprise, then something that looked almost like relief. He helped her clean up the mess, their hands brushing as they reached for the same napkin. "Salamat," she whispered in Tagalog, the word slipping out before she could stop it. Walong Anuman, he replied automatically, then caught himself, surprised by his own response. For a fraction of a second, they weren't the Sheikh's bodyguard and flight attendant. They were two Filipinos, far from home, recognizing each other across the carefully maintained distances of their professional lives. Carlos smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his entire face, and Ana realized she had never seen him look anything but watchful before. He looked so lonely behind those watchful eyes, she would later tell Liza during one of their late-night conversations. Over the following months, their interactions evolved from professional courtesy to something more complex. During layovers in London, Carlos would appear in hotel lobbies where Ana sat reading, settling into nearby chairs without invitation but somehow always welcome. In airport cafes between flights, they discovered they were both sending money home to families who depended on them, both carrying the weight of being their relatives' hope for a better future. Carlos began sharing fragments of his story. The typhoon that had stolen his world, his years in the military where he learned that survival meant emotional detachment, his gratitude to the Sheikh who had given him purpose when he had nothing left. Ana listened without judgment, offering the kind of understanding that Carlos hadn't experienced in years. She told him about the roosters that still woke her in dreams, about the guilt she felt enjoying Dubai's luxuries while her family rationed rice, about the loneliness that followed her through crowded airports and gleaming cities. In these stolen moments, their carefully constructed professional personas fell away, revealing two people who had learned to be strong because weakness meant failing the people they loved. The attraction grew in glances that lingered a heartbeat too long, in conversations that continued past their logical endpoints, in the way Carlos's vigilant posture relaxed when Ana was near. They both recognized the danger. A scandal involving the Sheikh's bodyguard and a flight attendant could destroy their careers, their families' futures, everything they had sacrificed to build. But on August 15, 2017, in a hotel corridor in London at 2 a.m., as Ana returned from calling her family and Carlos finished his security sweep, their careful boundaries finally collapsed. The kiss was inevitable and terrifying in its intensity. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Carlos whispered, "This can never happen again." But they both knew it already had, and that pretending otherwise was a lie neither of them could sustain. What began as a single stolen kiss in a London corridor became 7 months of carefully orchestrated deception. From September 2017 through March 2018, Ana and Carlos constructed an elaborate architecture of secrecy, meeting in different cities during layovers, never in Dubai where the Sheikh's influence stretched into every corner, every conversation, every whispered rumor. Their encounters unfolded in anonymous hotel rooms across Europe and the Middle East, brief passionate interludes snatched between flights and security duties. In Geneva, they would meet at the Mandarin Oriental, Carlos arriving 30 minutes after Ana, leaving 20 minutes before her. In Cairo, it was the Four Seasons, their rooms always on different floors, their arrivals and departures choreographed like a dance performed in shadows. Communication became a complex web of encrypted messages, coded language that would seem innocent to interceptors but carried desperate meaning between them. "The weather looks clear for tomorrow's departure," meant Carlos could meet her. Expecting turbulence on the afternoon flight meant danger. Stay away. They used burner phones purchased in different countries, numbers that changed monthly, digital breadcrumbs scattered across continents. In private, Carlos transformed completely. The watchful, controlled bodyguard dissolved, revealing a man so vulnerable, so hungry for genuine connection that Ana sometimes felt like she was witnessing someone being reborn. He would trace the lines of her face with trembling fingers, as if memorizing her features against the possibility of loss. His passion was desperate, tinged with the knowledge that everything they shared existed on borrowed time. "In another life," he whispered during a stolen afternoon in Paris, "we would have met in a normal way. I would have courted you properly, brought flowers to your family, asked your father's permission. And what would you have been in this other life?" Ana asked, though she already knew the answer would break her heart. "A good man," he said simply. "Just a good man who deserved someone like you." It was in that Paris hotel room, rain drumming against windows while the city sparkled below them, that Carlos first spoke the words that would seal both their fates. I love you, Anna. God help me. I love you more than my own life. Anna's response caught in her throat, not from lack of feeling but from the weight of what those words meant. She loved him too, desperately, but love in their world was a luxury that could cost everything. Her family's future hung on her job, her reputation, her ability to remain invisible to powerful men who destroyed lives without conscious thought. Yet Carlos began speaking of futures that seemed impossible. He talked of leaving the Sheikh's service, of starting over somewhere far from Dubai's golden towers and watchful eyes. Australia, perhaps, or Canada, places where Filipino emigrants could disappear into anonymity and build normal lives. Anna listened to these dreams with growing unease, knowing that men who served Sheikh Rashid didn't simply resign and walk away. But could a man so loyal to one master ever truly be free? She confided to Liza during one of their midnight conversations, the question haunting her even as she fell deeper into the relationship's dangerous embrace. Meanwhile, the Sheikh's world operated on surveillance as much as loyalty. Everyone watched everyone else, reporting behavioral changes, unusual patterns, deviations from established routines. Carlos, for all his training in deception, couldn't completely hide the changes Anna had wrought in him. He became distracted during security briefings, made small mistakes that his perfectionist nature had never allowed before. The Sheikh noticed everything. During a flight to Geneva in February 2018, he commented casually to Carlos, "You seem different lately, more relaxed. I hope that's not affecting your focus on what matters." The warning was gentle but unmistakable. Carlos felt the Sheikh's eyes on him more frequently, felt the weight of scrutiny that could crush careers and destroy lives. Other members of the security team began watching him with the careful attention of people who understood that proximity to power meant complicity in its preservation. Anna noticed how staff members sometimes simply vanished from the Sheikh's orbit. A pilot who asked too many questions about flight destinations, a secretary who seemed too interested in business conversations, a security guard who made the mistake of befriending a journalist. They didn't get fired. They just disappeared, their positions filled seamlessly as if they had never existed. The Sheikh owned people's lives, not just their time, Anna realized with growing horror. They weren't employees. They were possessions, valuable as long as they remained useful and invisible. By April 2018, the strain began showing in ways neither could ignore. Carlos became increasingly paranoid, convinced they were being watched, that their careful precautions had been discovered. He started questioning Anna about her conversations with other crew members, her interactions with male passengers, her schedule when he wasn't present. Anna wanted normalcy, tired of love measured in stolen hours and encrypted messages. Her family called with increasing frequency, asking about marriage prospects, wondering why their successful daughter remained single. The airline offered her a promotion that would require more flights with the Sheikh, more exposure, more risk. "I can't live like this anymore," she told Carlos during a tense conversation in a Rome airport lounge. "I love you, but I also want to live." Carlos's response frightened her. His eyes took on the same cold calculation she had seen him use when assessing security threats. "We could disappear," he said. "Tonight. Just vanish and start over somewhere they'll never find us." "You're talking like him now," Anna replied, recognizing something disturbing in Carlos's desperation. "Like you own me." By May 2018, Carlos had become someone Anna barely recognized. The gentle man who spoke of other lives had been replaced by someone who demanded to know her every movement, who questioned her loyalty when she spoke to male colleagues, who interpreted her need for space as betrayal. "If you leave me, I have nothing left," he told her during their final phone call, his voice carrying a finality that made her blood freeze. Anna should have recognized the danger in those words, should have understood that men who defined themselves through absolute loyalty could become absolutely dangerous when that loyalty was threatened. But she was tired, heartsick, and desperate to reclaim a life that felt increasingly like a beautiful prison. She made a decision that would cost her everything. June 14, 2018, began like any other day in Ana Maria Garcia's carefully regulated life. The morning call to prayer echoed across Dubai as she prepared for a routine flight to Doha, her movements automatic after more than a year of identical mornings. She tied her hair in the regulation bun, applied her makeup with practiced precision, and slipped into the uniform that had once made her feel powerful, but now felt like a costume for a performance she desperately wanted to end. The Dubai to Doha route was a short hop, barely an hour in the air, carrying businessmen and government officials on routine trips between the Gulf states. Anna moved through the service with mechanical efficiency, her smile genuine enough to satisfy passengers but hollow enough that Liza noticed something was wrong when they spoke during the layover. "You look like you haven't slept in days," Liza observed as they sat in the crew lounge, the air conditioning humming around them like white noise. "I haven't," Anna admitted, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "Carlos and it has to end. I can't live like this anymore." The message arrived on Anna's phone at 3:17 p.m. as their return flight began its descent into Dubai. The sender was listed as M. Santos, one of Carlos's cover identities, but the words carried an urgency that made her hands shake. "We need to talk. Tonight. Everything changes. Desert villa, coordinates attached. Come alone." Anna stared at the message, her stomach twisting with a dread she couldn't name. Something felt different this time, wrong in a way that her survival instincts recognized even if her conscious mind couldn't articulate why. The coordinates led to a villa she had never visited, far from the city in a stretch of desert where silence was absolute and help was impossible. "Don't go," Liza said when Anna showed her the message that evening in their shared apartment. "Something about this feels like a trap." "It's not a trap," Anna replied, though her voice lacked conviction. "He's probably panicking about the Sheikh suspecting us. We need to end this properly, face to face. I owe him that much." But even as she spoke, Anna was writing a letter to her family, her hands trembling as she tried to explain feelings she had never been able to share. She sealed it and hid it in her underwear drawer, beneath clothes her mother had sewn by hand in their cramped house in Cebu. If something happened to her, Liza would find it eventually. At 9 p.m., Anna climbed into a taxi outside their apartment building, the last time she would appear on any security camera alive. The driver, a quiet Pakistani man who worked nights to support his family, would later tell police that his passenger seemed nervous, checking her phone repeatedly during the 40-minute drive into the desert. The villa sat like a modernist sculpture against the star-filled sky, its glass walls glowing with warm light that should have been welcoming but felt instead like a trap illuminated from within. Carlos's car was already there, parked at an angle that suggested haste or agitation. Anna found him on the villa's terrace, a bottle of whiskey half empty on the table beside him. This wasn't the controlled, watchful man she had fallen in love with. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his eyes carrying a wildness that made her take an instinctive step backward. "You came," he said, his voice slurred with alcohol and something darker. "I wasn't sure you would." "Carlos, what's wrong? You're scaring me." "The Sheikh knows," he said, the words tumbling out like a confession. "Not everything, but enough. He's been asking questions, making comments. My position is compromised." Anna felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying we leave. Tonight. I have money saved, documents prepared. We disappear and start over somewhere they'll never find us." "You're drunk," Anna said, trying to keep her voice calm. "This isn't how people solve problems." "Come with me now," Carlos said, standing unsteadily, "or lose me forever. Those are the only choices left." In the immediate aftermath, as Carlos knelt beside the woman he claimed to love, reality crashed over him like a wave. He could call the police, confess, and spend the rest of his life in prison. Or he could protect the Sheikh's reputation and his own survival by making Anna disappear as completely as if she had never existed. The choice, when it came, revealed exactly what kind of man Carlos Reyes truly was. By dawn, Anna's body lay buried in a patch of desert that only the Sheikh's security team knew existed, a place where other inconvenient truths had been interred over the years. Her phone, purse, and personal belongings had been incinerated, leaving no trace of her final journey. Carlos returned to Dubai as the sun rose over the city's gleaming towers, showered, changed clothes, and reported for duty as if nothing had changed. When Anna failed to appear for her morning shift, he was among the first to express concern, his performance flawless except for the slight tremor in his voice when he suggested she might have eloped with a boyfriend no one knew about. After all, young women did such things all the time. When Ana Maria Garcia failed to report for her 6 a.m. shift on June 16, 2018, Falcon Skyways initially treated it as a routine absence. Flight attendants sometimes overslept, missed alarms, dealt with family emergencies. But as the hours passed and Anna's phone remained unanswered, her supervisor's irritation transformed into concern, then alarm. By noon, the airline filed a missing person report with Dubai police, describing a 26-year-old Filipino woman who had simply vanished without explanation. The initial response was depressingly predictable. Young foreign women, especially those from developing countries, often left suddenly, the officers explained. Perhaps she had eloped with a boyfriend, or decided to return home without notice. It happened more often than people realized. But Anna's colleagues refused to accept such casual dismissal. They knew her dedication to her family, her sense of responsibility, her meticulous nature that made her incapable of abandoning commitments without explanation. Led by Carlos Reyes, they demanded a serious investigation, threatening to contact international media if their concerns were ignored. The story might have died there, lost among thousands of missing person cases that Dubai authorities handled each year, if not for the Philippines press. Anna's disappearance became front-page news in Manila, a symbol of the dangers faced by the millions of Filipino overseas workers who sent billions of dollars home each year. International coverage followed, turning Anna's case into a diplomatic issue that Dubai couldn't simply sweep aside. Anna's mother, Elena, mortgaged their small house to buy a plane ticket to Dubai, arriving with nothing but grief, determination, and a folder of Anna's childhood photographs. She spent her days in police stations and government offices, her presence a constant reminder that Anna was someone's daughter, not just another statistic. The breakthrough came when Lisa provided investigators with Anna's final message, "I'm in danger. Carlos knows something I don't." The text transformed the case from a missing person investigation into a potential crime, with Carlos Reyes becoming the primary person of interest. Under scrutiny, Carlos's carefully constructed facade began cracking. His initial statements to police were confident, describing Anna as troubled and secretive in recent weeks, suggesting she might have left with someone she was seeing privately. But as investigators dug deeper, inconsistencies emerged like fault lines in his story. Digital forensics revealed a complex web of communications between Carlos and Anna spanning months. Phone records showed their last conversation lasting 27 minutes on June 14, ending just hours before Anna's disappearance. Location data placed Carlos's phone near the desert villa where Anna was last seen, contradicting his claims of being home all evening. Security footage from the villa's entrance cameras delivered the most damning evidence. Anna arriving at 9:47 p.m. in a taxi, then Carlos's vehicle leaving alone at 11:23 p.m. Anna never appeared on any camera after that moment, as if she had simply dissolved into the desert air. The taxi driver, initially reluctant to get involved, eventually provided crucial testimony. He remembered the nervous young woman who kept checking her phone during the drive, the way she hesitated before walking toward the villa's entrance, how she had asked him to wait but he had refused, needing to return to the city for other fares. As pressure mounted, Carlos's behavior became increasingly erratic. During his third police interview, his story changed significantly. He now admitted to meeting Anna at the villa but claimed she had left with another man, someone he couldn't identify. When pressed for details, he became agitated, demanding a lawyer, then changing his mind and insisting on his innocence. The investigation faced significant obstacles beyond Carlos's deception. Sheikh Rashid's lawyers applied political pressure, threatening diplomatic complications if their client was dragged into what they termed a domestic dispute between employees. The Philippines government, however, demanded answers, with President Duterte himself calling for justice. Forensic teams processing the villa found traces of Anna's blood on the terrace, along with Carlos's fingerprints on surfaces he had claimed never to have touched. Soil samples from his vehicle matched sand from the desert location where she would eventually be found. The evidence was mounting like desert sand, covering Carlos's lies with a weight that would eventually suffocate his denials. On July 8, 2018, after weeks of interrogation and overwhelming physical evidence, Carlos's resolve finally collapsed. In a police interview room that smelled of fear and fluorescent lights, he confessed to killing Maria Garcia during what he claimed was a heated argument that spiraled out of control. "She said she was leaving me," he told detectives, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "She said she wanted a normal life, that I was becoming like him, like the Sheikh. I couldn't let her destroy everything we had built together." Carlos led police to the burial site, a desolate patch of desert where Anna's remains had been interred beneath sand and stones. The recovery was conducted with the dignity Anna had been denied in death. Her body finally returned to the light after 24 days in darkness. Elena Garcia collapsed when officials delivered the news, her grief echoing across the police station like a prayer for the dead. The daughter who was supposed to lift her family from poverty had instead become another casualty of power imbalances that crushed the vulnerable beneath the weight of wealth and privilege. Carlos was charged with second-degree murder and disposal of evidence, eventually sentenced to 25 years in Dubai's central prison. Throughout the trial, he maintained that Anna's death was accidental, the result of an argument that escalated beyond his control. Sheikh Rashid publicly distanced himself from his former bodyguard, expressing sympathy for Anna's family while denying any knowledge of the relationship or its tragic conclusion. No charges were ever filed against him, his reputation protected by lawyers, influence, and the careful construction of plausible deniability. Anna's story became a cautionary tale whispered among Filipino overseas workers, a reminder that even dreams of better lives could carry deadly consequences. Airlines implemented new safety protocols, though critics argued these were mostly cosmetic changes designed to deflect liability rather than address systemic vulnerabilities. Hundreds of Filipino workers go missing abroad every year, their disappearances often attributed to personal choices rather than investigated as potential crimes. Anna's case highlighted power imbalances that leave vulnerable workers exposed to exploitation and abuse, far from families who lack resources to demand justice. In Barangay Lahug, Anna's family established a small scholarship fund using donations from overseas workers who recognized their own stories in hers. The fund helps young women pursue education, though it will never lift Elena Garcia's family from the poverty that Anna died trying to escape. Maria Garcia wanted to fly high, to soar above the limitations that poverty had placed on her dreams. Instead, she learned that some dreams come with deadly consequences, and that in the glittering towers of cities built on others' labor, the powerful remain protected while the vulnerable simply disappear.